Hello, everyone. Hope you are enjoying your day. Once again, welcome to the Real Talks One podcast. Today, we are joined again to discuss about higher education in the US primarily. I have seen a lot of people have asked questions around jobs and pursuing MS or MBA in the US. So, this episode would largely focus on the US education system, primarily master's courses, and it will also differentiate between how the masters are there in the India or other countries versus how it is in the US. What are some of the things that people need to do? What are the expenses? What is the general living conditions, and so on and so forth. So those would be the things that we will be discussing in the video today. So let's get started. So let me focus first of all upon some of the top universities here in the US. So you might have already heard there are two kind of universities. So one are like state universities, so that are funded by the given state in which that university is located, and other are private universities. So for instance, in California, University of California at Berkeley is a very highly rated institution, mainly for computer sciences research, and it's a state university. Whereas Stanford, also very highly rated institution, is a private university out of Palo Alto. Similarly, if you were to talk about University of Southern California, so it's in mostly near the LA region, again in California. Again, it is a state school. Then you have MIT, which is in the Massachusetts area of Boston. Then you have Harvard University, that is one of the Ivy League school. So there are a bunch of universities both on the East Coast as well as on the West Coast. One major difference between the East Coast and West Coast universities are, so East Coast universities are much more older. So many of the Ivy League schools, I think there are six or seven of them. Cornell, Duke, even Harvard, etc. They are very much concentrated on the east side of the US, and generally these schools have been there for more than like 150, 200 years as well. Whereas on the west side of the US, if you think about, let's say, University of Washington in Seattle, that's part of Seattle is the area is a area within Washington State. Then if you go, then you have Oregon, and then you go further down below, you get California. California is the largest state of US, and is the most biggest GDP as well in the whole of US, and very populous state too. In fact, they have several universities across California, both private and public universities, and they are much more newer. You would also see majorly between the East Coast and the West Coast. So West Coast is very highly dominated by tech, especially the California region. Like most of the startups that are incubated within the Silicon Valley region, which is basically the Bay Area that comprises of San Francisco, San Jose, and everything in between them to that area. And Stanford is right there. San Jose State University is also there. Santa Clara University is also there. So these universities generally are very much benefited because of the startup ecosystem around. So a lot of local startups may hire from these schools because of the proximity, and they're all in the Bay Area. So that's a benefit. Secondly, you would see that a lot of the universities on the East Coast, which are mainly your New York area and Boston and Massachusetts and all those areas that are there. One thing to note is that those areas are much more older, but they are not so much into tech, because these areas are very much focused with the banks and financial industry in particular. So what happens is that traditionally a lot of people who were into either, let's say, a government, let's say you want to become a government official, etc., those people have a lot of degrees in law, maybe management, and most of them are from Harvard. And a lot of, like, you see a lot of US presidents who used to have a degree from Harvard, or mostly they had a law degree. So that's the focus there. whereas on the West Coast it is mostly tech and internet and startups. That kind of focus is there on the west side of things. So now that you got a kind of a good mix of, and of course there are universities all across the US, like there are University of Texas, out of Austin, out of Houston, out of Dallas, Arlington, both private and public universities. There are bunch of universities in Florida, basically all of US, right? But then they may not be of very high rating. So that's also very important. Ratings are very much important, specifically based upon, so there is a overall rating of a university, let's say like Stanford, Harvard, MIT. These are very highly rated universities, right? But there are specific ratings for the courses also that they run. So for instance, MIT is very famous for engineering, especially electrical and computer science engineering. Stanford is very much focused on computer science or software. So when you look for universities, don't look for the just the university branding or the university brand name, but also look for what are the courses that you're going to pursue. So that can change the rating or the ranking of a university. And when you go for a highly rated university, let's say top 5 or top 10 schools, chances of you acquiring a job or getting into a, let have a placement. So there is no concept of placement as such in the US university system. So you have to apply for internships yourself. You have to actively network with people, go to career fairs and things along those lines. But the benefit of going to a like a higher rated university is that a lot of companies already like want to bring people from such kind of universities. They also happen to have a very strong alumni network, and as a result, chances of a person who is graduating from a name university which is of a very high ranking is much higher than a person who is graduating from a no name university or of a low ranking. Additionally, the resources and the benefits that you get in a top ranking universities are also very high because they may be already running a lot of consulting projects. So in fact, several of the professors in these universities are already advisors to larger companies such as Google, Microsoft, Amazon, etc. And as a result, if you get to work on the project of that professor, chances are that you will get absorbed by the company that is basically sponsoring that professor. So that's additional benefit. Next, since a lot of these companies have graduates that are already in senior leadership roles in larger corporations and companies, they tend to bring people from their alma mater, actually. So that's another benefit of going to a top rated university. Your chances of success and being able to procure a job just goes manifold, actually. So those are the benefits when you are choosing for a like a top rated university. So definitely go for that. And as I said, each year the ratings changes, and each core discipline that you are going to pursue has its own separate ranking. So please focus on the your discipline that you're going, so as to best get the best results of your education when you go forward to that. Now, another thing that I wanted to share about is, let's say there are people who pass high school from the US. Let's say you are born in California and you did your high school from California. These people will have very good edge over the immigrants who are coming from, let's say, India or from other countries to pursue education in the US. Because in the US, if you are from the same state and you graduated your high school from here, when you go for universities you don't have to write basically a SAT examination, or you can directly get admitted to your any local university, basically state university, just based upon your high school marks. Basically, they don't have to pass like a written examination or any competitive examination. So that's a very big differentiator. In fact, I did not know about this earlier. I just got to know later on that if you are from the same state, so if you are in Washington, you can go to University of Washington. If you are in Texas, you can go to University of Texas without having to write a SAT examination. Just your high school numbers are good enough for you to basically get into these schools. But more recently things are changing because there is so much competition that just your high school scores are not good enough for you to basically crack and get into a good university program. So in the US there is a very heavy emphasis not only on the numbers, the scores that you get. So essentially some people will go ahead and even write a SAT examination just to get a like a edge. And then again, this formula is only local to your state. So if you were to, let's say you were part of, let's say, Texas, and now you want to apply in University of California at Berkeley, it's a separate state, right? Then you do not get that advantage that other students from the same state will have. So here you will have to apply different kind of techniques, right? So in this case you would have to go for a, let's say, a SAT examination, and you also have to have other extracurricular activities. So what has been seen in the US is just your academic excellence is not good enough for you to basically crack these top universities. So you will have to have a very strong statement of purpose. You also need to have a very strong intent. You should also have references from your past schools. You should have probably done social work, or you should have done like a startup. So I'm hearing a lot of parents talking about these things, that at least in India, if you have to crack a, let's say, a CAT examination or a JE examination or a NEET examination, all you have to focus on is just educational scores, right? So in a JE exam, PCM, physics, chemistry, maths, you basically excel in that. I'm not undervaluing it, but at least you know what the rules of the game are. So you know, like if you score very good in physics, chemistry, and maths in a JE examination, and if you get above a certain cutoff, you are going to get an interview call, and most likely you are going to get an admission. That's not the same in the US. So even if you have a very high GPA, like if you get almost 99 percentile in your SAT score, even then you may not be able to get a US university admission. That is true even for GRE examination as well. So SAT is for undergrad graduation, like if you are going for a bachelor's of science, arts, that kind of course. And GRE is meant for more like if you want to go for master of science course. Similarly, on the MBA side of thing, you have to write GMAT for the this kind of courses. And of course you have LSAT, etc., for legal, and same way for medical examination also they have their own SAT examinations as well. So one of the things that a lot of students have to use nowadays to differentiate themselves is to either do a like a startup, or be part of a not-for-profit organization here in the US to beef up your resumes. So that, or you should have an extensive like volunteering experience, and you should have a very compelling story, because here universities, especially the top rated universities, you want to bring in a lot of diversity. They want to bring students from very diverse skill sets, diverse ethnicities, etc. In fact, it has been also stated, and there was a lawsuit also earlier where Supreme Court rejected the practice followed by Harvard, where they were basically negatively, targeting Asians, because Asians historically used to have very good academic scores, right? So most of the Asians who came in were valedictorians of their respective schools. So meaning they were like toppers of their respective schools. Plus any kind of SAT or GRE exam, they will get like 99 plus percentile marks in that. So those were also like almost perfect scores. And on top of that, they will attend a lot of robotics classes and symposiums and olympiads, and they would be like toppers in those as well. Even then you would see that people who were like Afro Americans or people who were Hispanics would be given preference even with lower scores or lower kind of academic achievement, or even achievement with respect to mathematics, logics, reasoning, etc. So that law was passed, like Supreme Court made that illegal, that you can't negatively punish like Asians who are academically brighter. uh, but even now the situation is no more different. So a lot of people, so basically the idea here in the US is that just the academic success is not a good indicator of future success. So one has to be a whole rounded, like a 360-degree rounded person actually to be successful, and that is what they look for the admission as well. So I would encourage that people who are wanting to try getting into a good university here in the US, not only should they be very good at STEM, let's say, I'm just assuming people are coming for more like computer science education, or bioinformatics or something related with tech, right? Those are the areas where people are wanting to get into. So if that's what you or your kids are trying to get into, I would encourage that not only focus on the STEM education, but try to build a startup as well. Of course, this may seem like strange, that why am I expecting people who are still at high school or just graduating trying to do get into a startup or something like that. The reason is that you have to stand out, right? And if you are going to pursue like higher education, might as well bring in all what is possible for you, so that you could be successful in getting admission into a good university in a good standing. And one of the ways to do that is being building a startup. It doesn't have to be profitable, right? But being able to demonstrate that you are an entrepreneur, you can organize resources, working in a team, being a team player, it shows a lot of skills, right? And what if the startup picks up, right? And especially when you are young, still at school or in high school, there is always an upside, there is no downside to it. But yes, it does require a lot of skills, interoperational skills, interpersonal skills, being able to talk to your colleagues, trying to build a team, coming out with a business. So being able to having a business plan, executing the business plan, building a team, operating as a part of a team, I think if you show this kind of experience, it will actually put you stand out actually, right? Because it demonstrates that you can come out with an idea, you can put a structure behind that idea, you understand finances, you understand team organization, you understand interpersonal skills, you understand customer onboarding, etc. So multi-dimensional skills are showcased when you are building a like a startup or a business. It doesn't have to be a tech business, right? It could be a business of trading business, it could be like buying goods from here and selling somewhere else, or setting up an online shop. It could be basically anything, right? That's different from your regular education, your maths, physics, chemistry, mathematics, logical reasoning, etc. So that's one way. Another way is a lot of people do volunteering, right? So they may volunteer in a local church or a local basically hospital, or food serving to needy people, or medical serving and things like that. So at least in the US there are tons of opportunity where such kind of volunteer opportunities are there, where people, students can enroll, and they get certificates here. I have seen here even as kids even of like 4 5 6 years of age, when they participate in like art programs, etc., they'll get a certificate for that, that you volunteered in this and you spent time. So I think there is a kind of a whole the understanding of the US fabric is that for everything that you do, they will give you a like a certificate of volunteering. So I know in holy events, or even in Diwali events, when a lot of these agencies or societies or even mandirs organize this festival, if you volunteer there, even they will issue you a certificate as well. And maybe these certificates will help you filing your college applications, that you have always been outwardly focused, you have tried to build community, be part of that community by volunteering. So that's another way you can have these extracurricular activities. Another angle I would like to bring in is if you be part of a like a not for profit organization. So not only do volunteering work from time to time, but actively basically be part of a not for profit organization. So I remember recollect around I think 10 or 12 years ago, I used to donate food. So I used to go with the society. We would go to downtown and start offering food to like homeless. It used to happen every like Saturday. So I used to be part of that group, and each of those people would generally, some would bring breads, some would bring like crackers or chips and things like that, and I would actually cook food and bring cooked meal basically, because I used to cook myself. So it was very funny in the sense that I would cook opu squash. It's long gourd that we call ghia or lauki is what we say in Hindi, right? I'll cook that and bring it along with like some boiled rice, and offer it as a meal to a lot of people. So a lot of people, because they haven't had it, and so it's very tasty and it's like good for your stomach. But the US homeless folks have probably never had it, so they used to be very surprised when I was to give them. And sometimes some people were curious, so they will try it and then they'll ask for more and I'll give it to them. So what I was referring to is that I was just doing it as a part of fun. I was not looking to get some certificates or volunteering, etc. I was just trying to just help out people, right? But I understand the value that in the US, if as a student you start doing those things, you will collect a lot of certificates. Not only the certificates, but you will build those kind of values, and it can help you in your admission as well. So now that we understand that just education and academics, especially if you are an Asian, right? Asian meaning you are Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi, Southeast Asian, Korean, Japanese, Chinese, etc. Generally you would be very good in your STEM education. Academically you must be quite bright, etc. But that alone will not be enough for you to crack a admission in a good rating university. So hence, even back in your own countries also, you should focus on either building a startup, having a lot of extracurricular activities like singing, dancing, cooking, debating competitions. If you are part of any of those things that you like, or Toastmasters competitions, speaking competitions, please collect those certificates. Or if you are participating in, let's say, acting, drama, singing, or part of a movie, etc., collect those certificates as well. Or if you have volunteered in political parties, or you have managed election campaigns, or you did digital marketing, anything outside of your regular education, you can collect certification and you can show proof that you have done that, will basically help you in your statement of purpose and when you apply for higher education in the US. So these extracurricular activities, I would say, have even more value than your actual marks that you get. So while getting a higher percentage in a SAT or a GRE exam, I would say is a kind of a necessary condition. But having extracurricular activities, showcasing something outside of your education, be it like building a startup, building a business, volunteering, being part of a non-profit organization, or doing something orthogonal from your studies, such as sports. Sports is a very big enabler here. So if you are a sports person, let's say like volleyball, soccer, and you are at a national level, or even at a like an international level, I mean, of course these are very rare, but those things can put you completely in a different league. In fact, there your scores will not at all matter. So if you are a sports person of immense value, then basically you don't even need any GRE or GMAT or SAT or anything like that. Universities will just pluck you in. But of course, those sports have to be relevant to the US. So you can't be playing cricket and hope that a US university will basically bring you on board, right? Cricket is not something US universities do. But yeah, soccer, baseball, basketball, etc., I think you will be good as well. So this is another angle, right? So having very good sports can also put you in a different league. If you're a musician, singer, etc., in addition to what you do, building a startup, or a business owner, or a volunteer, or running a not-for-profit organization, etc., can also give you a edge, especially during your interviews when you try to apply for a higher education here. Now let's talk about expenses. So if you are from the same state, so let's say you graduated from New York and you are applying for a New York university, then the state fees is lower as compared to out of state. So meaning, if you are applying for a Washington University but you live in California, then you will have to pay out of state fees, which is generally 4 to 5 times expensive than in state fees. So for instance, if you were to go for a bachelor's of science program in Washington state, your annual tuition fees out of state could be easily 50 to 60 thousand dollars actually per annum, right? Which is a pretty substantial amount. But if you are in state, your fees would be close to like 15 to 20 thousand dollars. So that's the level of difference it can happen. In some states such as Texas, in-state fees could be very very low, like things such as think I know of people who have been paying like close to 10 to 11 thousand dollars as in-state fees in Texas. But if you were from out of state, then that fees would be pretty much like 25, 30, or even $40,000 per annum. And I'm talking about just the bachelors here. Uh, Primarily, you have to understand these things very in detail when you are trying to pursue education. So anybody who is international would outrightly be like considered as out of state, right? So whichever state you apply, because you've never lived in the US, you will always have to pay the tuition for an international student, which is basically out of state. But even if say you were in the US, as I said, if you are going to apply to a university which is outside of your home state, where you did not graduate from, like you did not do your high school there, then again you will be treated as the same way. So neither you can apply your high school scores, you have to write the SAT or GRE examination, plus you have to give out of state tuition as well, right? There are some comments. Let me quickly read through those comments and then I can continue my conversation here. So Praful Bhandari is saying, very informative and useful piece of advice being offered. Thank you very much, Praful. Second is Neeraj Pandey. Will it be possible for you to give a brief take on University of Colorado Boulder versus University of Buffalo, both for MS in data science and analytics? Okay, and Neeraj Pandey says he has received both admission offers from both. So yeah, this is great. So University of Boulder and University of Buffalo in New York. So so in particular, I don't think both the universities are in the top 10 rating, unfortunately. But again, you can see the rankings in the top universities for an MS in data science analytics program. I don't have readily numbers on my hand exactly where they stand exactly, but I think university again, I'm just using intuition right now because I don't have the exact numbers here. So Neeraj, you please do your own research as well. But in my mind, University of Buffalo seems to be of a higher repute than University of Boulder in Colorado. And I'm saying this from the fact that because Boulder is in New York City, like New York State. Sorry, the Buffalo is in New York State. Sorry about that. Um, and hence the chances of getting absorbed in industry will be much higher because of the proximity in the same state, right? And it will be easier for you to go for internships, etc. Or if you have to travel from Buffalo to like New York City, would be easier. And I think Buffalo is also nearby Canada border as well, so you can even travel to, let's say, Toronto if you were to find a job there. So from that perspective, I'm thinking it might be better for you to try out Buffalo. And I think you, Neeraj Pandey, just mentioned both are 5200 in US ranking. Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say. So when I was saying top universities in the US, I was referring to like top 10. Like so I was looking at them. So the bottom ones, I don't even like know exactly where they basically stand. So my perspective is, yes, there is a lot of focus in data sciences and masters in sciences and analytics field. There is a lot of opportunity as well. However, try to think about also the proximity. Try to look research for the alumni network of these universities, where these people have been placed, and if they are local within that local area, right? Like, because as I said, New York is a big state. There are a lot of companies in New York area, and hence my bias is towards Buffalo being part of New York rather than Colorado. I mean, Colorado is also great and everything, but it's not as big as New York. So as you can see, my bias is towards Buffalo and not to Boulder, actually, in Colorado. Though Colorado is extremely beautiful, like very very beautiful state. It has a lot of good Alps and hills and things like that. So that's like really good. But yeah, uh, and another question Neeraj is asking: running a bit late in life, stood no chance to get calls from others, though results from CMU is still pending. Okay, yeah, CMU of course is a much better. Carnegie Mellon University is still better university. I think it's out of Pittsburgh, if I'm not wrong, or somewhere nearby. Again, within the same region. It's still a different state. But it's still near New York region on the East Coast as well. Don't lose heart, Neeraj. It's fine. We all blossom at different times, so it doesn't matter. So as long as your mind and focus and energy is towards pursuing higher education, and congratulations, you already got results from two universities. So there is only going to be upside, and there is no downside for it. But hopefully, yeah. So Neeraj Pandey said your podcast with Ashwin Rao was a great booster for me, and so many more. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great. Thanks for that, and we'll continue to bring more people as well. You should check out, a recent podcast with what was his name? It just launched yesterday, I think. Prashant Dhingra. He has a lot of experience in data and analytics. You should definitely check it out. It just kind of launched yesterday, and he's shared a lot of information around data analytics, data sciences, etc. In fact, I myself also have a lot of experience in them. I'll encourage you guys to check out that podcast as well, to get a lot of information around analytics data, how the industry is shaping generative AI and things along those lines. uh, Moving on, there is another comment by Akshay Verma. Is world heading towards Great Depression now? That's the question. So it's very difficult to say if the world is heading towards Great Depression. But there are two large, GDPs such as Japan and Germany, who are already like in recession, as they call it. And The growth is not very well defined. In fact, now even it is being said that even China is under, not depression. Yeah, China is actually in depression, in the sense that deflation, sorry, not depression but deflation, opposite of inflation. But their GDP growth is still around like 3% ish, so it's not declining, it's still growing. But it is also incurring deflation, opposite of inflation right now. US, on the other hand, which is the mothership, right? So US is around 28-29 trillion economy, and US is the mothership. Why I say that? Because US, GDP basically kind of dictates how the world will basically revolve around us, right? And thus far, US has not gone into recession. In fact, every quarter US economy continues to grow. And Even with the tech layoffs and like a lot of bloodbath in the tech side of business, the rest of the economy still is pretty strong, and it continues to grow. In fact, even the job reports are also pretty steady in the US. They're not extremely bad, even though the white collar and tech jobs, like I have covered it multiple times, are reeling under a lot of stress. But the overall US economy, with respect to non-white collar jobs, blue collar jobs in general, are kind of okay at the moment. And hence, it doesn't seem like the world economy is going into Great Depression now, though there have been calls about it in the last 2 years. I mean, I myself have recorded it multiple times. uh, I think there are certain indicators. If they happen, there is a high likelihood that we would see that Great Depression. And those would be that if the housing market here in the US completely goes for a toss. Thus far, it has not happened except for, let's say, Florida, Phoenix area, and Texas area. Except for those areas, so Arizona, Florida, Texas, we are seeing some decline in like housing there. But if you talk about New York or Washington or California, these states have not seen that. In fact, even now there is a bidding happening whenever you look for a like a single family home and things along those lines. So, and the Fed has not reduced the rates yet, and they're maintaining the rates there. Inflation is also not coming down significantly. I mean, they claim inflation is down, but we don't see that happen in the food prices that we have. Even the gas prices are pretty high. Gas, I mean to say, is petrol prices in the US are still very high. They're not come down quite a bit. So it's very hard to say whether we are like getting into like depression right now. So I hope it kind of answers your question, Akshay Verma. Um, Next question is from Neeraj Pandey. Keep up your work. Thank you. Here since 8 months. Thanks for being there. Yeah, it's been over a year that we have been speaking on this podcast. So John Orton is asking, masters in agriculture or horticulture in USA from India. Is it worth it? How is job market for agri or horti and salary? I think John, you had asked this question earlier. Also, I did respond back over the text earlier as well. There is an immense opportunity here in the US, but again, it will be very important for you to go for a top program. I would not recommend going for a lower ranking college. So I personally don't know specifically which college is very good for agriculture or horticulture. If you have interest in those areas, so definitely go for it, and hopefully you will find like a job here in the US as well. Generally, I think anything outside of tech, the salaries are not very high, to be very honest. So I'm assuming like if you start in a like a master's in, let's say, horticulture or agriculture, and let's say you get job in Monsanto or some other like a fertilizer company, or maybe really John Dairy or some companies which are related with farming and those kind agri kind of businesses. I think the starting salaries would be like 70, 80K, 90K probably. Whereas if you were to graduate in a tech course, let's say MS in computer science, and things along those areas, starting salaries would be easily like 120, 130K. And with the stock options and other things, it can easily go to 150, 200K as well. So you need to make a choice of yourself, like as to what you want to go. Again, I'm not underplaying like going for agriculture or horticulture and things like that. If that's where your interest lies, please definitely go ahead for that as well. So those are some of the things that you should consider when you are going for it, like what salaries etc are going to be there. Moving on to Akshay Verma again. Toshiba has announced 5,000 cuts in Japan today evening. Oh wow! Like in Japan, thanks for this information, Akash. Um, in Japan, generally, getting a layoff is a very big deal because generally they always have a permanent job and they do not cut jobs in Japan market. Same is true for a lot of European companies as well, but it looks like there is a really lot of stress in the overall tech industry, and seeing 5,000 cuts in Japan is like a big deal. I mean, I did not know that they can even lay off officially in Japan, but if they are doing it, that means it should be under tremendous stress actually. Because I think there is a government law in Japan that you can't cut the uh, employee workforce, and there is a lot of regulation around like when you can cut it, etc. So it should be a very big deal that they are cutting 5,000 people. US is pretty easy. Like every day, like no day passes when there is not a lot of layoffs announced. In fact, I was thinking of doing a podcast on another layoff story, but every day, like whenever I delay, there is always new company that adds into the list of layoffs, etc. In fact, I was recently reviewing that Atlassian has been revoking job offers for a lot of people in the India market, which is very unfortunate because Atlassian was one of the companies, basically the company that owns Jira and things like that, which made it like extremely popular. And it seems that in the India market, they are cutting off a lot of people, revoking job offers. But Atlassian is a fully remote company, and they were known for like good work culture and work from home and things like that. So it's unfortunate to see even they are under stress and they're revoking a lot of job offers that are out there. Next question from Neeraj Pandey. If you can throw some light On H1B, are we allowed to be part of startups at sea level? If not, be a founders ourselves. What are the ways to start our own thing on H1B, if you can answer? So on H1B, you can be part of startups even at C level. Yes. So you can be a CXO. You could be a CEO also on an H1B visa. In fact, and starting an startup on your H1B, you could start a startup on H1B, but you should at least have one more founder who is a citizen or a green card holder. So that would be the catch, but you can definitely join any startup at whatever level you want. And if you are going to be a founder, then you should find another founder who should also be a green card holder, or like, so you cannot do a like a independent startup where you are on H1B and but you don't have anybody else. That way you cannot do a startup. But if you have another founder who is a permanent resident or a citizen, then you can definitely do that. No problem. Akshay Verma says Morgan Stanley and HSBC has also announced job cuts in Asia Pacific market today morning. Yeah, that I can completely agree. Like that can happen. Banks are going through a lot of restructuring, and again in the US also they are basically announcing a lot of job cuts throughout the season. Like now, I don't even keep track of how many times they have done. Like be it Citibank or Wells Fargo or other kind of organizations. It's been like very rapid throughout the year. So, John Orton is asking, actually, in agriculture or horticulture, I will be getting assistantship where tuition fees will be paid by the university and free medical insurance and stipend of 20 to 22K USD. Other courses need high loan. Wow, this is very good actually. So, if you are able to get like the complete tuition waiver and a stipend of 20,000 dollars per year, which would be kind of like 1,200, $1,300 per month, which is I think is a great a way to sustain yourself as a student. So I brought in a person on a podcast. I think Manas, he was from I think IIT Bombay, and he's been pursuing MBA from University of California Berkeley actually, and he shared that they used to also get like generally they can maintain themselves very well if they were to make another, like $1,000 or $1,200 per month. So I think this could be a great opportunity. Yeah, so definitely go for it. So I don't know which state, John, you are trying to go to, but if these states are like more like midwestern states and all, $1,000 can go to like a very long way, like close to $1,500 is what I think you are getting. It will go very long way. But if you are in more like New York or California, then that money, $1,500 may not be that great. But I think since you are going to get assistantship, either way you should go. Like it's going to be really good. Next question is Akash Verma. uh, Google has also announced just now that they are planning for fresh round of job cuts. Yeah, that one I have not seen, but it's a news for me as well. If you have said, because in some of my earlier podcasts, I did mention that constant pip is like now like a part of the game. All big tech, Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, Google. Um, they have all announced layoffs at different point of time, but this fresh one that you have suggested, I have not seen the news yet, but I'll not be surprised if they did announce that. Like that could be quite possible. And then last message is from Neeraj Pandey. Please continue. Thanks for your time. Thanks, Neeraj, as well. Please feel free to comment here. I'll be more than happy to answer these, but I'll also try to go back to our conversation that I started with, that the amount of money that you need to pursue like these kind of higher education in the US, especially as a person who is an immigrant who is not from the same state, as I said, could easily go into 50 to $60,000 per annum. And if it is a bachelor's course, which is going to be 4 years, so basically think about 200K. And if you are in a master's course, which is going to be 2 years, think about at least master course. Generally, the fees is even like 70 to 80,000 per annum. So again, easily it will go to 150 to 160K basically for 2 years. So this is just the tuition fees. So based upon where you are going to stay, you will have to have your food expenses, living expenses, etc. Right? So easily, like for a master's program, think about 200K as a like a ballpark figure in your mind. And for like a bachelor's course, also think about 200 to 250K as a ballpark figure in your mind when you plan to pursue higher education in the US market. Another thing that you need to know is that when you come to the US, right, the one of the benefits that US education gives you is that you tend to interact with people from all different nationalities. So let's say if you were just like living in India and going for a university there, at max you would meet from people from Delhi, like Bihar, Rajasthan, Chennai, Bangalore, etc. Right? All, but they're all Indians. Even though they're very diverse, they probably have different eating habits. They come from different religions, but they're still Indians, and they generally kind of understand the overall culture, right? Even though they have their own quirks and differences. In US, on the other hand, you will have people from all over the world. So you will have Italians, you would have Spanish, you would have Latin Americans, Canadians, you will have people from Sri Lanka, from Japan, Korea, all of them in your program. So the level of kind of diversity that you would see will be very, very different from what you would see probably in an Indian university when you go for a higher education. So that's one part, that's a very big difference. Second is in India, like a lot of people when they go for university, right, generally universities have a mess and they generally give you very well catered food. I mean, we can always debate about the quality of the food, but at least you have an option to like even eat outside. And in India you have very cheaper options even in cities like Bombay and Bangalore and Hyderabad and Delhi. Like students generally whenever they are there, they can go out and they can get like a meal for a cheaper rate, right? Unfortunately, in the US, that's not an option for you. So neither the university gives you very good catered lunches. I mean, they will be there, but they will be more towards like US palate. So many Indians won't find that appealing and not like that kind of food. Especially if you are vegetarian, that will be kind of a nightmare for you because you will not like that food. You will not get a lot of vegetarian options, etc. So either you have to cook yourself, or basically if you go outside then it will be prohibitively expensive. So that's another thing, you have to keep in mind when you are looking for higher education. In US, again, most likely you will not have your family support system or your friends who are already here in those universities. So independence will be much more required. So if you as a person are coming to US for education or even for a job, let's say, right, you have to be very independent. So meaning you should know life skills, like how do I drive, how do I cook food, how do I wash my clothes, how do I organize my cupboard, how do I live myself, how do I am able to go out, come on time, sleep on time, exercise, eat right, eat healthy, and don't get into vices. Right, vices are very easy. Like you can get like beer in the US on like general stores as well, right? You don't have to have go to like a proper alcohol shop to go there, but you can get things like that very quickly here in the US. So you have to be very careful about like you don't have to get into vices. So things like alcoholism, drugism, prostitution is very openly available to everyone here in the US. So there is a high emphasis on your own moral character and your moral compass, right? India generally, of course, these things are still available in India too, but they're under the hoods or they're like kind of hidden. In the US, it is out there in open for all of you, right? So if you get attracted towards these vices, etc., it can be like very, very like bad for your future, right? So be careful about those things as well. Thank you very much, Akash Verma. I saw you have shared your appreciation in the forms of money. I think you are my first one who have paid something in this session, so I really appreciate it. I really appreciate your gesture, Akash Verma, as well. Um, so great. And another thing I was wanting to basically share is primarily that. Whenever you come to the US, right, in addition to the education system that is out here, you also need to think about the culture and the community you will be part of, like whenever you come to the US, especially while you're pursuing your education and things along those lines. Another thing that I will like to focus on the quality of the education. So in the US specifically for the higher education, right, the amount of money that the US system has is just unparalleled. So the universities here actually get a lot of funding not only through the government, but they also get a lot of funding through the companies. So like Google will have association with some universities, Amazon will have, Microsoft will have. So they will keep funding projects and a lot of research, because of which universities will get a lot of money. So for instance, if I were to take example of Harvard endowment fund is so huge that technically they don't even need to take fees from their students, because they get just funding just from all their past alumni and endowment network. Same is true for Stanford University as well. It may not be true for all the universities, but many universities here, they are just plush with funds. So they are almost like corporates. They're no longer just educational institution. They have like managers and directors and all kind of people, right? Because their universities are just plush with funds and they have access to so many corporates and so many people, etc. So keep that thing also in mind, that when you are going to these universities, they will open your doors to so many different things that you may not even know about in India. So in India, there is no concept of this corporate funding to universities, and there is no concept of these endowment funds. So some IITs and some IIMs, etc., do have endowment funds where alumni would basically pay endowment, sponsor them, etc. But it is not at a level at which people in the US tend to do it. And Once again, thanks, Akash Verma. Uh, Thanks for your comment. Please continue guiding the youth through sessions. Yes, that's what my aim is, to share my personal experience as well as bring in other learned people who I have access to share their experience as well through these podcasts. That's what I try to do and will continue to do that as well. What I was also saying was, in these universities, right, that's a big difference. So not many countries can actually have that kind of universities. So Oxford University is very famous, Cambridge University is very famous out of UK. They also have a lot of funding, a lot of endorsements, etc., but nothing as compared to what US universities have. So whenever you come for like higher education in the US, let me assure you that you will get a blast of your lifetime. One, the kind of diversity of ideas and the people that you see here will be unparalleled. It will not be something that you can even compare back home from India or Japan or whichever countries you are from, who come to here. But in addition to that, the quality of the faculty, they also bring faculty from all over the world. So you will have people from Iran, you will have people from Afghanistan, Europe, like Poland, you have England, you have like best people from all over the world will become faculties here in the US, including from India as well, right? And even the students are also from all over the world who come here to experience that. Having said that, uh, I would tell you one thing for sure, that people who are immigrants who get admission into these universities are much more driven and smarter than the local people from the US who get admission into these universities. The reason is because as an external person, not only you have to compete very heavily for the select number of seats, as opposed to person who is from the same state who is applying for the university. Even for them also it is competitive, but for immigrants outside of the US it is even more competitive, because the number of seats are very, very minuscule. And since you are from the outside of the US, you have to now have like a SAT score, GRE scores, and then you have to have extracurricular activities, and you are coming from outside of the country, right? So you have to have much more hardships, and probably you need a lot of funding, etc. as well. So if you crack open a role in a US university, that's a big achievement in itself, as opposed to a person who is born or brought up or graduated their high schools from here in the US itself and are getting admission. Because one, if it is their local, meaning from the same state, they don't have to basically pay for the higher tuition fees that you are paying as an immigrant. Secondly, they don't have to write a SAT examination or GRE if they are from the local state itself. So that already cuts down the kind of bar for them quite a significantly, as opposed to somebody from the outside. So these are some of the things that you need to take care of. Think before apply for US universities. uh, India somehow, for master education and like PhD education, I think the quality of research in India is not up to the mark. And again, I'm not going to say it is just because the professors are not good or the students are not dedicated. It's a kind of a holistic systematic issue actually. So neither the resources are good enough for like conducting these research, because in a research system you have to experiment quite a bit, and each experiment may not result into success. So failure is a part of like research systems. So any innovation can result in a lot of failures as well. So maybe after 9 or 10 experiment, the 11th experiment would be a success. So it's almost like startups, right? Like almost 90% of the startups go down, but US just keeps generating startups after startups after startups, right? Even though everyone knows that only less than like 5% will be grand successful startups, right? But they don't stop generating more startups. Same way with the innovation, the problem is that you don't know which is going to hit. Sometimes even though it is a technological advancement, but it may not have a business outcome. So those kind of things can happen here in the US because of the amount of money that US spends into the research. And in general, people have that pursuit of like innovation and pursuit of trying new things. So if you compare this with India, in India, at least in this day and age, people don't tend to like focus on that. They're more focused on getting the jobs. And again, I'm not discrediting people to like look for jobs in India, because if in India people don't look for jobs, they don't have much more options anyway, as opposed to US, where people can not do research, not pursue innovation, and they can still flip burgers and still make their livelihood. So because it is a developed country, right? And in India being a like a highly developing country, very large scale poor population, it's very difficult for them to put so much money in research. And hence if you have to pursue a higher education, I think US could be a great opportunity for doing that. And again, I said, as you look for that, focus on top universities to ensure that at least you will be able to get a job and are able to crack the alumni network of those top universities. If you are in the bottom universities, then basically it's a matter of chance essentially. So there is another comment by Amitabh. Jobs are also now gone in India. Well, Amitabh, if you think the jobs are gone in India, then you will have a nightmare in the US, because technically every month in the US, almost 50,000 jobs are being lost in the tech sector alone. I know a lot of my friends who are out of jobs. A lot of people are struggling for the last 1.5 year. Even US citizens and permanent residents here in the US are struggling to actually get a job. And So US is good until you have a job, you have good insurance, everything is paid for, so it's great. But once you lose your job and your insurance is gone, then it could be a very stressful time to live in the US actually. So so far India doesn't have the same situation. Job losses are happening in India too, but not at the same level at which it is happening in the US right now. I hope it doesn't translate into worse job market for India. But yeah, I mean, for the last 1.5 2 years, people have been struggling here in the US because of the constant layoffs and in the huge numbers that we are seeing here in the US. India is also seeing some of it, but it's not still as large scale as it is in the US. So I hope you probably understand that. Neeraj Pandey is saying, I would concur with Akash. This is unique podcast. 90s प्री 90s के लोग भी काफ़ी कंफर्टेबल अपनी स्टोरीज कर पाते हैं, makes them comfortable and brings them out to the in front of them. Thank you, Neeraj ji. I hope you continue to like it and share it with the rest of the people. I try to be as authentic as possible, because whatever I'm speaking right now, as you can see, whatever questions you ask in real time, I answer it right away. So none of it is scripted. None of it is like thought. Like, I don't prepare scripts or study something and then share it there. This is just based upon my live experiences and basically the talks that I have from people. And I generally like to study and like talk to people and review like a lot of things. And like you, I also access a lot of YouTube. There's a lot of intelligent people out there who share their thoughts and things like that. I review multiple sources, I read, and then basically share it with the rest of the folks as well, for everybody's benefit. And this is one of my passions. So since my teenage, I wanted to be like a motivational speaker. And I got this opportunity kind of last year, when I think tank where I'm an advisor asked me to set up a podcast, and I quickly jumped at it. And it's already been like about an year plus now. We are like 1 year strong. We started out in like February of 2023. Though officially I personally had my own personal YouTube channel even back in like 2008 or 2009, if I'm not wrong, or maybe even in 2007. But I never used to post there regularly. Like, I had few sessions around like big data and Hadoop and all, because back in that day, 2009 2008, that was a time of like big data starting out, like Hadoop and predictive analytics and things along those lines. But I never kind of pursued it like regularly and all. It just happened like last year, and once I started doing it, thankfully now we have about 900 plus subscribers and a lot of engaging community. The good part is that we never did any kind of marketing, we never did any kind of any kind of advertising, etc. All the family that we have built here of like about 900 people, it's all organic through your likes and subscribes and your shares. So I really like it very much, because I speak from the heart, whether it is in Hindi or in English. And that's why I'm able to respond back like rather quickly. So it's very great feeling, because that's what I always wanted to do. I did not want fake bots and like showing some immense channel growth, etc. But the people are like just completely bots. So I rather talk to real people, share their real stories, understand their real pains, and respond to them, rather than showing like high number of likes and high number of people, but completely built through bots and things like that. So thank you everyone for being such a wonderful community and sharing it with your family and friends, and growing this channel from like zero in Feb of 2023 to all the way to like almost 900 plus people today. It is. So let me read another mention. Amit is saying, "Sir, will data science be relevant in the upcoming years?" I think data science will be relevant. There is no reason why it will not be. There are a lot of talks around like AI will take your jobs and things like that. I certainly believe it will take certain jobs for sure, especially low cognitive skills, jobs that can be automated rather quickly. It will definitely take care of those areas. But the change will come like initially a little bit slowly. Like, let's say in the next 2 to 3 years, you'll start slowly seeing that shift, that some of the, let's say, testing jobs, some of the automation jobs start kind of taking care of themselves by like AI and ML, which will require data science skills. But maybe from medium to long term, say more around like 4 to 5 years, there will be an uptick in like rapid automation through AI and ML. And I think in towards the end of the decade, I think that the change will be much more faster. So I think uh, AI is here to stay. A lot of things would happen in AI, and hence data science is going to be important to be able to use AI or to build these AI models. So you would need data sciences for sure. But the changes will start happening more kind of slowly right now. In the immediate future, it will pick up a little bit of pace in the medium to long term, and in the long term it will happen very rapidly. So while the capabilities in data sciences and AI and ML continue to build, we'll see the rapid changes towards the medium to long term part of the year, part of the decade actually. So yeah, great conversation with everyone here. I hope this was an entertaining session for you all, and you might have got some information from this. Please do share it with your friends and family and your network. Continue to share and subscribe and like it. And thanks once again for your time. And we'll shortly meet again in another engaging session and share on new topics. Till then, take care, have a nice day, and talk to you soon.